You're in the Pacific Northwest.
Yeah.
That's Bigfoot country.
That is.
I can't look into the darkness with you anymore, Mulder. I cannot stand what it does to you or to me.
It's probably the first time where you see like leftists and conservatives coming together to demand accountability from the government.
Welcome to Sasquatch Talk. My name's Bradley Valentine. Again, I've got Dan Adams and Troy Miller. We are the owners of Sasquatch Gun Oil, and today we've talked a lot about conspiracy theories, guns, etc., Sasquatch, and I think it's all kind of led to this, of course. For the end of the year, we're going to talk about January 6th. And this is something a couple years ago you couldn't just openly talk about without getting banned on Twitter or YouTube. Fortunately, things are a little bit more free these days, a little bit, not perfect, but we're not going to get banned for just talking about it like we once did. So, to start us off, a quick icebreaker. I'll start with you, Dan, and then I'll go to you, Troy.
Okay.
What were you doing? This is kind of stupid, but what were you doing, and what do you remember that morning or afternoon of January 6th? So show me your recollection, not of your opinion of it. Like, what did you see? What did you think?
Well, I knew. Okay, so we make gun oil, right? And it's going to be it won't be the entire episode, but I've got a little bit to say about it.
Uh-huh.
So we're gun enthusiasts, right? I also am a big proponent of the Constitution, as well as the Second Amendment, and free speech, and having served in the military for over 20 years.
Right.
I hold these truths very dear to me, right?
Okay.
These things that I have dedicated a long service to, right? To uphold these. People should be able to freely assemble, and people should be able to, because I believe that the government should be, however we feel about what it should be for the people and of the people, not assembled to control the people. It's so that we can govern ourselves. That's the purpose of it. Does it happen that way? You could make an argument to say that it happens that way in a roundabout fashion. My argument that is it hasn't happened that way in over 50 years. But for the morning of J6, I was watching, right? Because I thought about taking leave and going to DC for the first time in a very long time. Not because I'm a massive Trump supporter. I'm not against the guy that's in charge of the military right now, right? I just got to say that. Not against him. I just, like everyone, I might not disagree with all of the things that he says or all of the policies. A lot of people think that he's pro-Second Amendment, but if you looked at his career, not only as a politician, but his private life, I don't think he's very pro-Second Amendment. I think he's not against it. He's just not for it. You know what I mean? Does that make sense? So I was watching, and then as it unfolded, it's like this. When you watch, have you ever seen Meet the Parents when he's on the airplane?
Bomb,
right?
bomb, bomb, bomb.
Yeah, sir, stop yelling. I'm not yelling. Like I thought I was watching that unfold in real time. They're like, stop charging the Capitol. I'm like, well, they're going inside into a place that we're allowed to be in.
Right. Yeah, I saw that.
And
too.
they didn't go out there with like guns and rocket launchers and grenades. They're like wearing the Order of the Buffalo hat and like,
yeah,
they're armed with cell phones and signs. They didn't storm the castle. They didn't have pitchforks and torches.
So you kind of saw it as like, okay.
Yeah, I'm like, all right, what kind of weird crap is this going to be broadcast as? How can you make people with cell phones and stocking hats and face paint look bad, right?
Yeah.
Well, you get a couple of, see, when you look at it like this, the cops, their whole job is to protect you, right? So if you pull out your gun holding it, or you pull out your phone holding it like a gun, people are going to see a gun. It doesn't matter how far away you are from it.
Mm-hmm.
And does like, what is the vision standard for any Capitol Police officer, right? Do they get a vision test quarterly, annually,
Okay.
biannually? So you pull out a black phone that looks like a gun, and there's already way more people than they were prepared. There was things that was denied. Like, the whole thing was just reeked of a setup, right?
Uh-huh.
Like, it's really easy to bait somebody into, you pushed me. No, I didn't. I was just standing here,
Yeah.
So that's what it looked like to me, was a big giant setup. And what I see is this umbrella thing of all of the, guns are good or guns are bad thing. Every other country will admit that the main reason they have not had a land invasion in the continental United States is because of the massive amount of firearms that are owned by everyday Americans.
Yeah.
Because they know that our willingness to defend that strand that got our forefathers of this country to stand up to England and break away from the crown. They know that thread runs common through, I'll say now, 70% of Americans.
Sure.
Because there's a lot of people that would probably very willingly go back to the crown, which is absolutely absurd to me.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
However, not far from the crown, we kind of invented our own crown and painted it in a whole different light because of all of the taxes, right? But we have to have road maintenance and clean water, and our poop has to go somewhere.
Uh-huh.
There's things that have to happen. The outlandish taxation of you trying to get ahead is just wild.
Let's get into that a little bit later. I just want to set the stage of where we were. So Troy, I'm going to throw it to you. Same question, January 6th. Where were you? What were you doing? What were you seeing? What were you thinking that afternoon?
Unlike Dan, I wasn't paying attention to it. I didn't know it had happened until later.
Okay.
That being mentioned, January 6th was, for all I can remember, a regular day. I don't remember what I was doing, where. I'm sure I was at home, but or doing my daily stuff, but nothing special. I wasn't paying attention to it or anything. I just found out about it later after the fact.
How about you, Brad?
So I was at work, and I remember one of my employees was like, "Oh my gosh, do you see what's happening? They're raiding the Capitol."
They're raiding the. Here we go.
And I saw, he sent me a clip to this video, and it was kind of like what you described, Dan, of people walking through the Capitol. I'm like, I don't get it. It looks like there are people in the public building. I don't understand what's happening. And I remember being at work and everyone being like, this is not good. This is bad. And maybe this will be a segue into our next subject, but I remember I'm at work, but I have my computer, so this is all I'm focusing on now. Watching the video of then President Trump, because he had a few more days left in office, saying, "You're beautiful people. They stole the election, but go home," right? And so two things in my mind happened there, and this I'll toss this back to you. Trump said they stole the election, number one, and B, go home. They banned Trump from Twitter, Facebook, YouTube for that video.
Oh, yeah.
Because he said, this is what they said they banned him for, inciting a riot by saying that they stole the election.
Well, they used not a riot. They said insurrection.
Yes, insurrection.
Yeah.
Essentially, you weren't allowed to say that the election was stolen. Okay, so I'll pass this back to you. Here's my thoughts, and I'll throw it back to you. Let me say that two things real quick. One, the video evidence of Donald Trump saying "go home" is now deleted because they said he can't say, because he also said that they stole the election. You're not allowed to say those two things at the same time, so now people think that Donald Trump incited insurrection or whatever. My other thought is how quickly people forget that they say Donald Trump stole the election just 4 years ago. So Donald Trump...
with the whole Russia collusion.
Yes,
right?
Donald Trump was first impeached for saying that he stole he was first impeached for stealing an election, and then he was impeached a second time because he said that the election was stolen. So that's what gets, like, how short of a memory do we have that we forget that Donald Trump was literally impeached because they said he stole an election, and then he was impeached because he said the election was stolen. Where's the standard? So
that brings up that not to interrupt or like,
go for it.
I just have that brings up a very interesting point, right? So I did some election canvassing, and for those of us that don't know what election canvassing is, it's you go register, they make sure you're good, right? I've held a security clearance for a while. And so they check you out, right? Are you who you say you are?
Uh-huh.
And then they give you a list of addresses and registered voters.
Yeah.
And you sign up to go verify voter registration logs.
Yep.
And so they don't pay you gas money. They don't pay you food. You get zero money for this. This is a volunteer thing that you can do.
Yeah.
They do give you a clipboard that you have to return. And they give you some paper forms that you fill out and then bring back to them. And all you do is go to those addresses, knock on the door politely, and then you ask them, are you, as you stated on this form here, your number, let's say I go to Bradley Valentine's address and wherever you live, and I knock on your door and I verify, is this you? Did you register as this to vote? You can either say yes or no or shoot me. That's your option.
Right.
I guess you could give me some Girl Scout cookies, right? But you have the option to not answer, look at me through the window, or in the instance that we ran into, for miles of roads out in the middle of nowhere, Oregon, we went on this road where there was like 30 properties and 10 people registered at each properties, not even so much as a mailbox on these properties.
Yeah.
Okay. And you're talking a 10-mile long road with 30 properties that don't even have a mailbox, but there was 10 people registered at every address.
Yeah.
And that's one road in the middle of nowhere, Oregon, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so we talked to other people up in different counties around Oregon, and all these little tiny non-habited 1-acre tracts of land had been bought up by the same company and had registered voters on them.
Really?
Yeah.
I think the idea is that people, like, okay, obviously in 2016 they said Trump stole the election through some sort of Russian collusion, right? Hillary Clinton,
with the Russia hoax. Yeah.
Hillary Clinton is on record saying that, right?
Yes.
And Troy,
yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
I was going to say, Troy, I'll go to you because I hear this and I hear, like, do you guys know who Bill Maher is?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So Bill Maher, I actually like Bill Maher. He's funny. He's obviously a liberal, but I like to watch his stuff sometimes. He's funny. He's been around for a while. But he says that the difference between Republicans and Democrats is he's a Democrat. He says we when the election is over, we say, okay, it's over, and we move on, even if we lose. That is total, utter nonsense because they impeached the president for stealing it. So, Troy, let's say someone listens to this episode and they say, well, what you guys don't get is that you Republicans, throw a hissy fit and invade the Capitol, and us Democrats, we just let it go. What would you say to that, Troy?
I think that's BS. I mean, the Democrats can't let things go. They had a thing with Trump all the way back to 2016, and every time Trump got his way, that he won. It didn't matter what the issue was. The Democrats threw a complaint about it. That whole Capitol thing. One thing that stood out to me was that it was. So I saw a picture and a video of it after the fact. There was someone in there waving the Confederate flag.
Yeah.
And the Confederate flag was an image of the Democratic Party, right? It was, yeah. Yeah, because the
Oh,
Democratic
now we're
Party was,
getting banned for sure.
yeah. But I mean, so they flew that flag during the Civil War when they were known as the Confederate States of America, right? Before
Yeah.
and after they
Yes.
were the war, they were the Democratic Party. Well, that
Right.
was apparently the very first time the Confederate flag had ever been flown in the Capitol building. It was on January 6th.
Yeah.
So, I mean, this kind of an issue, the Democrats throwing a fight, the Republicans throwing a hissy fit, it goes back and forth, especially with presidential elections. Sometimes it flares up, it gets nasty, like it has been in the last 8 years or so.
Yeah.
I think it's a normal part of elections. It could get ugly, it could get vicious.
Mhm.
Well, yeah,
But
that's the
it's-
thing. They've totally weaponized media, right?
Yeah.
If you want to,
Yeah.
if you want to break it down to what it is, they've weaponized media to divide people, to use scare tactics, to immobilize the public. Because if you can't trust, every time you watch a news, whatever, right, and then you go talk to people and you find out it's different, and you get 9 different ways, it paralyzes you. What could you actually do? Right? They talk about take action, get out, vote, this and that, right? Well, in the Oregon election, right, when we voted for president, 97% of the state voted for Trump. 3% of land area voted against Trump, and the whole state votes against Trump.
Right.
You know, so because 3% of the state holds 70%
half the
of the people.
population.
Yeah.
3%
people.
of the physical land area.
Yes,
clear.
that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
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 Yes. It's all in the Portland area, Portland down
Yeah.
to Eugene. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I find that wildly interesting that I think about this, right? So the Democratic Party, when it first started out, was against slavery and against total government control, right? And I've been trying to nail down what year the flip-flop happened, and I think it was post-Civil War.
No, the Democratic Party was the party of the South. They were the pro-slavery party.
Yeah, they were the pro-slavery.
Or yeah, that's what I meant. The Republican Party was anti-slavery.
Yes.
But somehow, like when you get down the road, now they're saying that the Democratic Party was the one that is anti-slavery.
That's a lie. So
that is
I
a
agree.
lie.
And I wanted to see when that started, because I was telling the kids something, because they were watching something about the president when Joe Biden was the president.
Yeah.
And he was saying something about how segregation is bad.
Yeah.
Right. And so I said, I paused the TV. I said, listen, I'm going to show you guys something. And I went to when he was a senator, right?
Back in the 80s.
Before the 80s.
Okay.
The dude was in politics for over 50 years.
Most of his life,
50 years ago was the 60s, right? And what was happening in the 60s?
Yeah.
Segregation was going away, right? So he is on record on C-SPAN in the historical files saying that they should not integrate schools. So either he's been cognitively challenged for over 50 years, right? And he didn't know that integration and segregation meant, bring them together and keep them apart. And he had them flip-flopped in his brain. Or he just went with what he thought the most people that would vote for him wanted him to say.
So
or his perception of it, or he just thought that it was better to keep people segregated at the time.
So here's an answer to your question, Dan. The Democrat Party is a populist party, which means they will stay on top of what keeps their voters in. And since the early, let's say 1910s, when the income tax, the federal income tax was going on, This one's kind of has stayed the same. The Republicans and the Democrats were on both sides of that. The Democrats adopted this thought process that we can adopt the income tax by saying rich man bad, right? Like if you say the rich man is a bad man, then we'll get most of the people
because
on our
at
side.
that time 90% of the people were in poverty,
right? So that's how
Something
they
like
got their agenda pushed through in the 1950s and 1960s, especially and after the Equality Act in 1963 or 1964. They had lost the issue and they started flip-flop. So now there's this story where all they had to say is, oh, you're a Republican, you're racist. Like I even have people who like don't understand that just because I vote Republican and like that I'm not racist. That's literally just what you've been told because that's the talking point that they've been saying now for 60 years, you know? If you go back and you look at like the Ku Klux Klan, that was majority Democrat members.
Democrat,
You know, we had someone who I can't remember his name. It could be easily looked up. I think he died in like 2010 or something. He served in the U.S. Senate, I think. And he was a Democrat, and he was the last person who was in the Ku Klux Klan, and he served in the
that's right. Yeah, he
U.S.
was a professed
Senate
Klan
up
member.
until like 15, 20 years ago. Democrat. So yes, they all you have to do is just like repeat the same thing over and over and over again, and eventually people will believe it. But here's the thing, the Democrats always come out against rich man, and I think that's one thing that everyone hates is the rich guy. So you say you hate the rich guy enough, you'll believe everything that I say, you know? Like if I'm like, Troy, this rich guy's stealing your money, now also these other 5 things that are facts, you're like, well, I guess I believe that because I hate the rich guy more than anything else, you know? So that's the answer to your question, is they flip-flopped in the 1950s and 1960s when they were losing the issue and just said, look at them, they're bad. That's it. That's the answer.
And they repeated that for decades.
Yep, for 60 years.
Instead of actually passing, you know, good things like reform and helping, you know, like if you teach people that are in jail how to appreciate freedom and, you know, giving back to society after being a bad person, right? And you rehabilitate people.
Yeah.
That's been my stance the whole time. Like if you teach people that don't know any better how to be better, so that they can help not only themselves but everybody around them. Yeah. What, like, isn't that better than just giving them the ultimate timeout and then being like, well, we can't be like, you know, other countries and just make people's family feed them because some of them will starve because some of them are in here because they were bad to their family. Yeah. the one group of people that care about them more than the other, you know, 90% of the world.
Of course, yeah.
You know.
And quick fact check on myself. It was Robert Byrd who was in office from 2010, from the 2000s. 2010, I think he died in office, and he was in the KKK in the 1940s. He is a Democrat. So anyone who's listening and is thinking like, oh, well, it's the Republicans who are the evil. Look at actual history. You can see.
Yeah, let's look up factual information.
Yeah,
factuality, if you will,
for a long time. And yeah, he was part of the KKK, and that's the history of the Democratic Party. But let's get back on track because I think my idea was like, and you were saying this too, Dan and Troy, like. We flip-flop on these ideas, and all you have to do is say it enough. Like, if you just do a quick Google search of anything with January 6th, basically you'll see every article will say the opposite of what we're saying, even today, right?
Yeah. Well, yeah, and then every gun crime that's committed is committed with an AR-15.
Yeah.
That was bought at a gun show loophole.
Yeah. A fully automatic assault rifle.
Yeah.
With exploding bullets.
So one thing,
and a barrel shroud.
One common talking point, and I did some research on this, was like over 140 officers were injured and 2 were killed on that day. If you look this up, there are multiple sources that give random names, but they're like Washington Post, New York Times, but there's no like evidence. It's just like we heard from like the union. One of them says that some of the injuries came from testing positive for COVID. So 38 of the injuries were because of COVID.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
What?
Yes. You could go to the Washington Post and it says since January 6th, 38 Capitol Police employees have tested positive for the coronavirus, almost entirely officers and supervisors who responded to the riot. This was from the union.
Riot.
And this was from the union basically saying that part of the injuries that are accounted are from COVID. So my thought, and Troy, go ahead, Dan.
Sorry, go. That brings up a really good point, right? They call it a riot, right? Can you see how many cars were flipped over? No cars were flipped, right?
Yeah.
How many buildings were burnt down?
Right.
None.
The only
right?
rioting part was the reports of looting. You know, that was the only kind of...
No, that wasn't the people that were at the Capitol, though.
Yeah.
The looting happened blocks away from the Capitol by people that did not go to the thing to see Trump. That was an entirely different thing, and that wasn't even a riot. They just smashed and robbed some stores.
Mm-hmm.
So here's my point, though. They're calling
stories.
So we're missing the bigger picture here. A gathering that resulted in no flipped cars and places burnt down, and where we can now safely say the majority of the injuries were falsified. And the two deaths that happened were a result of overreaction. We're now calling a majority peaceful gathering a riot.
Yeah.
So now
what happened in
now
2020 though too?
No. 2020 there was actual like cars burned down, statues torn down.
Right.
Like those were actual riots.
But that's what they said was the peaceful gathering. There was no violence happening during those events.
Yeah. Those were supposed peaceful gatherings. The riot is
exactly,
the people that care about actual government goings on.
Yeah.
Gathered peacefully in a place where you're legally allowed.
Yeah.
And so they need to make it synonymous with gathering at the Capitol to peacefully protest things that you don't agree with. That has to be bad now. And it's okay in your mind to actually go rip things down and throw a giant fit as an adult. An adult temper tantrum.
Yeah,
flip cars over and
children,
burn blocks down. I posed this question to someone. I said, "Hey, for the National Guard being deployed in Chicago, this area that they're deployed in, would you live there?" Well, no. Would you live there 40 years ago? Well, no. Okay, so you would agree with me that this neighborhood has been a problem for 40 years? Yeah. Okay, so why is it bad that we sent the National Guard into a place that couldn't get under control for 40 years? Because 40 years ago, when Martin Luther King was assassinated, 18 city blocks were burnt down. Yeah. And we sent the National Guard in there to stop them from burning the rest of the city down. Right?
Mm-hmm.
So now how is sending the National Guard in before actual city blocks were burnt down? How would that be a bad thing? Because we can probably all agree that the light that was cast about the National Guard being called into these problem areas of the country is most would consider it a bad thing.
So, okay.
I'm just talking about the peaceful gathering versus.
Well, I want to add to this because people think that like a bunch of people died and police officers died. One person died that day. Her name was Ashley Babbitt, and she was one of the protesters, whatever you want to call them. She was a protester.
Yeah, because she was shot by a cop.
Yes. Now, like you I think Biden said this when he was president about Donald Trump. He said he sat and watched on the 6th of January, watched the riot going on, watched those people being killed, watched the cops being killed, watched what's happening, watch what was happening. No cops were killed that day. There were cops that died a few days later because they had a stroke. It was considered natural causes. That does not mean that they died from the January 6th attacks. No cops died. One person died. She was shot by Capitol Police. She was a U.S. Air Force veteran.
Does it say if she was armed? Does it say if she was armed? Because I don't think she was armed.
I don't think she was armed, no.
They shot a non-armed, non-threat.
Yeah, I think she was like climbing over something, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, she didn't take the stairs. How dare you?
Here's a bullet.
So I think part of the problem is like people still think that people died and cops died that day. That never
if we
happened.
Took a poll,
one person died and she was one of the protesters. No cops died. All the people that were injured, like, we can't verify, or they got COVID and that's how they got injured, you know?
Yeah.
And I think that's
there
part
is some
of the problem.
twisted ankles. There is some twisted ankles.
Yeah.
COVID was the problem.
Yeah. And, you know, it's one of those things. Okay. Do you guys know who AOC is, right? Alexandria Oscar Cortez or whatever. Did you guys hear about how she said she was like afraid that she was going to be sexually assaulted that day, and it turns out she wasn't even there? Like, she feared for her.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah.
That's my problem. Is that's what we're up against. Is
how is it legal to falsify statements like that? Because it's not.
There was no direct defamation is the thing. So, you know, I mean, the only
but it's
go ahead.
Yeah. No, it's going to be a rant, so it's better if you go.
I don't know. And there's also rumblings of Nancy Pelosi, who is in charge of the Capitol Police, was told by the president to call in the Capitol Police to make sure everything was peaceful days before, when he had a rally pre-planned, and she said no. Did you hear of that, Troy?
I did not, you know.
Yeah, so
I did know of that.
Danny, what are your thoughts?
My thoughts are that I think, and I'm pretty sure it is, illegal to make false statements as a representative and a person who is employed by the government. Because I know that myself as a service member, it is illegal. There's actual laws on the books about making false statements. Okay? Which not one of the representatives, senators, people throughout the government that are in the public eye on the news are ever held to that standard. But there are service members that have come back that have skirted around the factual information to protect the lives of operatives currently in the field, and have stated they did not state the whole story to protect the identity of operatives in the field, and they threw them in jail.
Okay.
So we have service members telling most of the truth, omitting minor details to preserve the lives of current operatives, being thrown in jail for that. But we have people like AOC making wildly false statements and having zero repercussions while making lots of money.
While
Lots
railing
of
against
money.
rich people and capitalism and
Lots of money.
Yeah.
So I think we should clarify the false statements thing. Is like it's like, okay, Dan, you technically
For any official business, here's the for any official business
right
that I am part of.
Yes.
If I make a false statement of that official business, it is possible that I could be drug into a court of law.
Yeah.
And if it's proven false, be thrown in jail.
Yeah, I think that's a better clarification, because you can lie. There's just certain scenarios in which you cannot lie. But yeah, I mean, we had the president of the United States, Joe Biden, saying that Donald Trump caused this riot and watched officers murdered on that day when these things never happened. So, I mean,
Correct.
the line,
That's a false statement.
the line will never end, right? Like we just
Nope.
went over that the Democrats have lied to us about the history of civil rights in America, and it will
Yep.
never change.
Even their own.
What was that, Troy?
I was going to say they've even lied about the history of their own party.
Oh yeah.
No, we weren't the ones that pro-slavery.
No.
You know, it's
Republicans ended slavery. And
yeah, exactly.
and it goes as far as, and I think this is part of the issue, Troy, like you may have seen videos like this or heard this comparison. I saw this tweet on X, or whatever you call it, a post on X where someone's like, after they started doing a lot of deporting, someone said, okay, who's gonna like unclog my toilets now? I pay less than minimum wage. And really indicating that he used brown Mexicans to clean his giant turds that he took and clogged up his toilets. And now that they've deported his underpaid labor, he wants a white guy to do it, saying, I don't pay them, I don't pay enough, who are you going to get to? It's the same thing that they used, that Democrats used with slavery. Who's going to pick our cotton?
Yes.
Right?
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
And it
Build
was a
our
moral
homes.
issue then, and it's a moral issue now. Like, who's going to take care of my stuff for real cheap now that the brown Mexicans aren't going to do it? That's not what they're saying out loud, but that's what
Wait a
they
minute.
mean, you know?
You mean other rich people don't stay rich by paying fair wages to get services rendered?
Right. And they convince
Oh.
the middle and lower class that it's the evil rich Republicans who are doing these things. And really, guess what? The rich Democrats, they want the cheap labor, you know?
They do. Mm-hmm.
And that's how it goes. And so going back to my point is, like, we have this false narrative where there are so many things going on. And Troy, let me go to you. My thoughts are, Donald Trump said that the election was stolen. There's no doubt about that. He also had a rally on the Capitol. No doubt about that. They said that he did January 6th is essentially how it is. Like, there's nothing about that. What do you think, Troy? Like, what's your conclusions when it comes to January 6th about who did it, what it all was about? Like, what's your takeaways after our conversation?
It's all a lie, you know, from what mainstream media is saying. I don't believe it. I'm not digging it. I'm not buying it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's a lie. Like, we've been just kind of going on a rant for the last, I don't know, however long we've been on this. I mean, it's true though. To that point though, it makes me question everything that both parties are saying too, because I'm not saying the Republicans are perfect. You
Man,
know,
I can't
all
cheer
humans.
loud enough for that.
Yeah,
You're
Yeah.
talking my entire life, man.
Yeah.
yeah. But that's going back to the American politics. That's kind of the benefit of having multiple parties instead of a single party. Like, going back to Dan, you kind of mentioned that earlier, how there are some people who want to go back to the crown. That is ridiculous, because that's a single party will do whatever the king says.
Yeah.
And this country fought that revolutionary war, that war of independence, to get away from it.
Yeah,
You
which
know?
is crazy that people draw the assumption that Trump is the king, because they literally have shot down like almost all of his proposals to end the government shut.
Yeah.
But and
I mean, like,
not
so
only
if he was a true king, he could have been like, nope, off with their heads.
yeah,
Yep.
yeah, exactly.
There's no more other party.
And not only that though, it, like, they blame Trump being the king, a no king's the protests, when they selected Kamala Harris, and she didn't even go through the whole.
She wasn't elected. Yep.
No,
Right.
Yes, that's the very thing. How kings and queens are selected. They were selected.
Yeah,
You know,
by
they're not
someone
voted
being removed. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. And it's it's just so I don't know. I think January 6th is it. Read what you want to read, as far as those people out there. Take it with a grain of salt. What you're actually reading and what actually happened are two very different things. It's yeah.
Yeah, even if you look up like personal testimonies of what went on that day, and did you watch any of the coverage from the political prisoners? That's what they are. They're not actual prisoners. They were political prisoners. People were arrested from January 6th for doing legal actions.
Yeah. Yeah. And
Can we talk about
Trump
that for a
pardoned
minute?
them.
Yeah, for
Yeah.
crimes they didn't commit.
Yeah.
Right.
Can you imagine getting pardoned from being in jail for something that you did that was legal?
Right. Yeah.
If they want to be upset about something, can we please be upset about that?
No, because
About being in jail for years
but that's
for
the
something
thing.
for doing something legal?
If you're upset about January 6th and you're on the opposite side, you think like you've been told, you're brainwashed that those people should have been in prison and that Donald Trump did the wrong thing by pardoning them. So, I mean, that's the part of this whole narrative thing is like, if you were told all these things and believe all these things, then you think that Donald Trump is like a tyrant for releasing those people. It still doesn't make sense, but essentially he released those people.
Yeah, a tyrant would never release
Right.
people.
That's the point. That I just don't get it. Like people talk about like he's a fascist, he's a tyrant. Guess what fascists don't do? They don't cut the budget. Right? They don't fire government employees. The history of fascism.
Yeah, a true fascist would figure out how to funnel that into their own wallet.
Yes. This is another false thing about history is in the 1930s and 1940s. I just talked about this on the Freedom Finances podcast. Fascism was Mussolini, Hitler, Nazism. They grew the size of the government and they employed a lot of people in the government. Right? That's what fascism is. You want the government to take control, the control of everything.
Yeah, no more private entities.
Yeah.
Only
Guess
government.
what a fascist doesn't do? He doesn't bring in an accountant to cut the budget. That has never happened. This would be the dumbest fascist in the world, Yeah,
or uncover like almost $1 trillion worth of scams.
Yeah.
So here's my thought on the whole thing.
Yeah.
They tried very hard, and I mean not even necessarily the whole entirety of the Democratic Party, right? Because I have to believe that there's probably at least one person in the Democratic Party that's doing what they're doing because they think it's the right thing for someone.
Okay.
I hope. Right? I hope.
Sure.
That they're doing because they just see the world through a different lens, right?
I don't disagree.
And their whole reason for getting into that party line was because they thought from the information that they read, because it's easy to get bad intel, right? You can get bad intel, right? So they got into that thinking they were going into a public servant role and that they were going to provide a service to Americans and stand up for the people that they were elected for. I have to believe that. Otherwise, the entire system is a sham, right? That's the only other option. So is that the entire system is a sham. There has to be people that serve on both sides that believe they're doing it for the better of the people that they're representing.
Okay. I think you're right. And I'm going to lose a lot of our audience and maybe even you too. But guess who thought he was doing? He thought he was doing the right thing for his people. Hitler. Right? Guess what? Yeah. You're right to say that a lot of the Democrats think they're doing the right thing. And I think all three of us can agree we're not super pro-Republican. We can't vote for Democrats, right? So Democrats are like, guess what the right thing to do is to make sure people can still have abortions, right? That's the right thing to do in their mind. Meanwhile, the right thing to do in their mind causes 400 to 500,000 abortions a year, at least minimum. So that's the right thing to do. Sometimes even if you're fighting for the right thing, in your mind, it can still be wrong. So
wrong thing. Yes.
So I think you're right, Dan. I don't think you have to be I don't think you have to be worried that there aren't people fighting for what they think is the right thing to do.
The politics that are broadcast,
Yeah.
okay, they want to lead each party member, meaning the voters.
Yeah.
They want to, and this will get to my overall point. They want to incite a feeling of hatred and division.
Mm-hmm.
They want the people that vote for them to feel so strongly that when they fill that little square in on their voter sheet, that they have broken down any chance of the other side to do something against them, against the country, against their neighbor, against their children.
Right.
Like they draw such hatred and what's the right word I'm looking for? Like disgust, really.
Yeah.
For when you look at it, why, like people saying Democrats, right? I hate that because they're people. They're people. When you ask people, what do you want to do today, right? There's a lot of people that want to do something for themselves, right? That, like, whether it's like, man, I just want to take a nap. I'm whooped, right?
Yeah.
But eventually you have to like earn money to like get food, or you have to go out and till land to grow food, right? Like the basic essentials of every day. But we're a wealthy society in the fact that if you compare what the lowest income is in the United States and the things that were available to them, far outweighs the things that are available to the lowest income person in any other country, right? For the United States, like it's something like $19,000 is available to the lowest. If you made no money and you went to all these places to get help, you could essentially get $19,000 for the year out of all these different aid places, right? But if you were, say, in Mexico and you went to a government building and you were like, hey, I make no money. What kind of aid programs do you have available? Is there anybody that could help me? They're like, you might get thrown in jail.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Like, but we're such an, if people would understand necessity versus want and desire, right? Like people are like, oh, you can't afford this or you can't afford that. It doesn't look like you think it looks like, right? Mm-hmm. Yes, you might not have a mansion and a Ferrari.
Yeah.
And maybe you don't even have TV to watch. You know,
no.
like,
Oh no.
Then you might not actually be swayed by politicians. Wow, wild thought.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, but the thing that I'm trying to get to is politics, seemingly by design, now are meant to divide people throughout this country. Because if the three of us are divided in our ideals and understandings of each other, we couldn't effectively run our business, right?
Right.
If I always thought that you two were conspiring against me, and then Troy, you thought that me and Brad were conspiring against you, and then Brad thought that me and Troy were conspiring against him, we couldn't get anything done, you know? So if you want to rule a people, not lead a people, if you want to rule a people, what do? Well, first you got to divide them, right? Because if they're all united and they know that you're a sham, you have no choice. You have no chance. You got no shot, right? But if you divide them in half, well, now you can actually get your objective obtained by pitting them against each other. Because if they fight each other, they're not fighting you. They're fighting each other. And that's what people need to understand. is that politics have gotten us to fight each other. People are calling each other Democrats.
Yeah.
They're Democrats. Well, you're a fascist and you hate people,
Right.
and you don't like people that are a different skin color than you. Well, you hate babies. You're so bad you hate unborn children.
That's just name calling. It's a form of bullying.
It's funny.
It's
that
worse
you
than
say
name
that.
calling.
Okay,
Yeah.
Troy, here's this quote. 2 quotes. The election has been the most bitter and disgraceful that ever disgraced the American people. That's 1 quote. Quote 2 is, this is probably the only instant in human history where 2 great parties have been so violently opposed. When do you think that quote is from, Troy?
I wouldn't be surprised if someone said that about, say, the 2020 election and the January 6th events. But I also wouldn't be surprised if someone. Hold on, Dan.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah.
I think you guys know where I'm going. It's from the 1800 election of John Adams. It's been like this for hundreds of years, for thousands of years.
Yes.
The difference is social media. We have it at our fingertips, right? This was printed in a newspaper 225 years ago versus we can just open our phones and 10 seconds later get this information. I think we are divided. I think we always have been divided. And I think we will stay this way for the end till the end of times. I think what we have to do, though, the way you get out of it is just like, A, stand with your morals, and B, like, do a little research and actually look things up and like actually look and find out the information yourself. Otherwise, you're just listening to what other people are telling you and moving on, regardless.
You're just repeating the narratives.
Yes.
Yeah.
That is exactly it. And
do this. Take it one step further and talk to people as if they do not have your ultimate demise in mind.
That's a good point. So we have like just 2 minutes left. And I think when it comes to January 6th, like there's still investigations going on and still people repeating the same things on both sides. We really don't fully know what happened, and I wish I could fully know. What I know didn't happen is that cops weren't murdered. Like it wasn't burnt down. It wasn't
no cars were flipped.
Yeah. Like there were no cocktail bombs thrown. That's,
right. So it was not a riot, and it was not an insurrection.
I'm gonna do what you said not to do, Dan. That's more of a Democrat thing. They're the ones who throw the fire bombs. So we're out of time. I'm gonna end it right here. This is Sasquatch Talk. This is what we have for the end of the year. Merry Christmas, everyone. We'll see you in about 3 or 4 weeks. That's it. That's all we got. Adios, guys.
Goodbye.
Merry Christmas.
Bye.
Bye.